Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my new patrons, Celie B, that's fun to say, and Johan T. Thank you guys for choosing to support the channel. First up, one last update on the Model Y being the best-selling vehicle. That 32,700 figure we talked about for January was indeed just from Shanghai because Tesla doesn't report US sales data. However, I was able to find this article from Automotive News saying according to Experian data for January, the Model Y was the top EV in the US with 18,549 registrations. So we can take this US data, pair it with the Giga Shanghai data to get an estimate of 51,200 Model Ys sold for the month of January globally. And at that pace, the Model Y will definitely become the best-selling vehicle by revenue in 2022 if things go according to plan. I went through the rest of the CPCA data and honestly, the Chinese EV market is on fire. For the month of February, the wholesale volume including BEVs, plug-in hybrids, and ICE vehicles was 1.45 million vehicles. The wholesale volume for NEVs or new energy vehicles, which includes pure battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids, was 21.8% of the market share for February. This was up from 9.6% in February of 2021. In terms of unit sales, pure BEVs were 245,000, up 161% year over year, and plug-in hybrids were 72,000, up 350% over 2021. So plug-in hybrids currently growing at a faster pace, albeit from a smaller base. And doing the math to figure out the pure BEV market share, 16.8%, leaving a remaining 5% for plug-in hybrids. And sadly, in the United States, depending on the month, our total plug-in share is usually 6 to 7%, and full battery electric is usually 3 to 4%. So the United States still lagging behind China and Europe. Good news, however, for Tesla in the States as it has an early lead in the US luxury market, overtaking segment leader BMW in new vehicle registrations for January. Tesla's January figure rose 49% from last year to 37,162 vehicles. And Experian had BMW at 30,563. This data includes all models from the luxury automakers, including gasoline-powered vehicles, hybrids, and fully electrics. And remember, this is registration data, which can be a few thousand vehicles different than the actual sales data. The Model Y was the top EV in the States at 18,549, followed by the Model 3, third place was the Model S, and in fourth place was the Ford Mach-E at 2,781. Did you guys happen to see one of Biden's comments when he was talking about banning oil from Russia? Yes, this is a broad statement, but he said it should motivate us to accelerate the transition to clean or sustainable energy. Does that sound familiar? Next up, we have Rohan Patel, who wrote a letter to some senators essentially defending Tesla's autopilot and FSD. Rohan is the Senior Global Director of Public Policy and Business Development at Tesla. Groundbreaking stuff here, but Rohan said autopilot and FSD do require constant monitoring and attention of the driver. Reiterating this point, everybody needs to know it. But listen to the response to this letter from two of these senators, Blumenthal and Markey. Just more evasion and deflection from Tesla. Despite its troubling safety track record and deadly crashes, the company seemingly wants to carry on with business as usual. Look guys, I've been over this, Rob's been over this, Dave has been over this, we've all done it multiple times. This is simply a false narrative. Teslas, when you look at the data, are actually safer vehicles the way they're built, the crash testing. On autopilot, they're safer. FSD, we still have 0 reported deaths. So this idea that Tesla is adding some unnecessary grievous risks to the road is simply false. And one more line from the senators in their letter for good measure. Complaints and investigations paint a troubling picture. Tesla repeatedly releases software without fully considering its risks and implications, creating grave dangers for all on the roads. The first part of this statement, also false. Tesla has been very methodical about how it's released the FSD beta, now testing with about 60,000 people, and as I said, 0 deaths, no accidents, things are going incredibly well. Tesla is gathering data. They could have been reckless and just release it to everybody to really race and try to get ahead, but they didn't do that. And to the second part, in my opinion, the real grave danger here is distracted and drunk driving. From the Wall Street Journal, Biden has signed an executive order for some agencies to study the risks of crypto, but perhaps more importantly, to also consider the creation of a United States digital currency. Now, I want to be very clear, a central bank digital currency is absolutely not the same thing as a true blockchain cryptocurrency. This is a topic definitely worth diving into. I will probably do that over on Patreon. For now though, I just want all of you to remember, not the same. These agencies will have several months to prepare a report with their findings. Oklahoma in the news a lot lately, but the Senate has given full approval for this new bill in order to regulate autonomous vehicles. Currently, 19 states already allow AVs, with 20 more allowing for testing. And they're saying this legislation will make sure we know who is operating AVs and make sure they have proper insurance and safety protocols. Now, this is only passed the Senate. This still needs to pass the House. So Cathie Wood and ARK Invest have been under a little fire recently, as some investors are upset with the performance of ARK funds. However, in a recent interview, she made a very bold statement. Have a listen.
I believe that this shift towards passive and benchmark sensitive investing, meaning, mimicking indexes, which is kind of mindless, is very backwards looking. The stocks at the top of these indexes are there because of what has happened historically. I believe this is the most massive misallocation of capital in the history of mankind, especially, I don't know if, can you hear me? Because that's a punchline. This is one of the most massive misallocations of capital in the history of mankind. We have ahead of us the most magnificent opportunities because of the massive amount of innovation that's taking place, and yet the fear has pushed investors back to their benchmarks. Innovation is going to help us solve these problems, and we certainly were beating that drum. And anyone who got in near that low had a tremendous ride. Mm-hmm. I feel we're back there again. And now with the Ukraine-Russian issues, again, we have many more problems. Certainly when it comes to oil, mm-hmm. This is only going to accelerate the push towards electric vehicles and autonomous transportation.
Which is good for your number one holding, Tesla.
And you'll see why I'm showing you this here in a second, but part of the problem here is so many investors nowadays have short-term expectations. We're talking 6 months, 9 months. They expect all of these significant returns. And two, when it comes to expectations of returns, I just think many people are kind of out in left field. What Cathie was saying is that investors that are taking money off the table away from the likes of Tesla and growth companies and innovation in general are going to pay the price for reallocating that capital into benchmarks that just track the indices. And much of the criticism Cathie has been getting is because she said she thought oil was going to go back to $12 per barrel. Of course, she was wrong about that, at least in the near term. However, she did admit her mistakes right here, and she doubled down, reiterating her stance, saying long term, though longer than I expected, oil prices will collapse under the weight of lower demand, partially driven by higher prices. Innovation solves problems. She is sticking to her guns. So this is what I wanted to show you. And this is crucial for any investors out there who might be disillusioned with the performance of ARK funds or Tesla or any growth stock for that matter. What we're looking at in this column right here, this is the discount rate that is set by the Federal Reserve. So we're going to look at a period from December of 2015 when it was at 1% to December 19th, 2018, when it was up to 3%. Here we're looking at the NASDAQ, and between the yellow lines, we're looking at the exact same time frame when interest rates went from 1% to 3%. So the NASDAQ was up 29% over that 1,098-day period, roughly 3 years. So using a simple average, that's an increase of 10% a year in an environment where interest rates are rising. And of course, we have to look at Tesla. I hesitated to show you this because so much has changed for Tesla, namely profitability after this time. However, Tesla over that same time period, December 2015 to 18, Tesla was up 44%, so it outpaced the NASDAQ in an environment where interest rates were rising. So my points here are twofold. If you're invested in ARK funds, you cannot be looking at the performance every 6 months or every quarter and expecting the returns to smash the benchmark. It's unrealistic, it's not going to happen, and that thesis is wrong. You have to start thinking in 3 to 5 years, not 3 to 5 months. And second, I think there are a lot of new Tesla investors that just expect the stock to go up 100% year over year monotonically, when in reality, we can have years of a lull or sideways action given macro factors. And yes, I do think Tesla will have a nice run up. Yes, I think it's undervalued. Yes, it's the only traditional stock that I own. However, Don't let your expectations get out of control. Moving on, we got a new document for the Giga Austin event, and we learned a few new things. Still April 7th, 4 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. officially, 15,000 person max capacity. For reference, there were about 9,000 people that attended the Giga Berlin event. Invites will be sent out for Giga Austin, and priority will be given to the locals. The document said admittance only with a ticket or an invitation, so that ticket part makes me think that there will be a registration, possibly online, to come at a future date. This registration is not yet open. Alcohol will be served. Maybe it will be Giga Beer, as we saw that at the Giga Berlin event. Minors can attend, but ID will be needed at the entry, and there will be wristbands for people over 21. The performers are TBD. And most importantly, my question for you, even if you're not invited and registration ultimately isn't a thing, are you planning to go and just hang out? On that note, Tesla is now sending out invites to Berlin employees for the delivery day at Giga Berlin, still set to be on March 22nd. So like Sawyer said, it's finally happening. Deliveries from Giga Berlin, fingers crossed, just 13 days away. Another nice gesture here from Tesla. Starting today, you can access free supercharging at all superchargers across Poland and Slovakia. Here, I just want to give you a quick update on what's going on with Elon and the SEC. Apparently, it seems like the SEC is ready to distribute that $40 million to investors, which now is about 41 and change due to interest. Basically, Elon is trying to get away from having to have a Tesla lawyer review all of his tweets so he doesn't do anything to damage the company. In a recent filing, Elon said, "I never lied to shareholders. I entered into the consent decree for the survival of Tesla for the sake of its shareholders." On one hand, I know a lot of people think, well, shouldn't Elon just stop tweeting and avoid this altogether, or tweet less or be more responsible? Yes, but we know that Elon is going to stand up for what he believes in. He thinks this is getting more to a free speech situation, and he doesn't want to be told what to do in this circumstance. This might be something cool from Lucid, premiering on YouTube tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Peter Rawlinson will host Lucid Tech Talks, all new series uncovering Lucid's proprietary EV tech behind the record-setting range in the Lucid Air. Here we have Porsche, according to a leaked internal memo, planning to stop the production of all models by the end of March 2022. Porsche's wire harness is produced in Ukraine alongside that of other car makers like BMW and VW. And last up for today, GM gives us a very brief preview of the new Chevrolet all-electric Blazer SS. Here's the video. We haven't really learned anything about the car just yet, but we'll keep an eye out for it. Please like the video if you did. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.